It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Monday episode of Two Guys and a Goalie, YouTube exclusive, at least for today. Be available on podcast as well. Obviously, if you've not yet subscribed on the podcast, what are you doing? Just search Two Guys and a Goalie on all your podcasting platforms, and you will not miss an episode, which is great. Also, presented to you by Coolbet Canada. Hop online, coolbet.com. All you have to do is use the bonus code 2GUYS, number 2 in the word guys, and you get a 100% deposit bonus when you sign up to $200. Boys, how was the weekend? How was the weekend, everybody? What'd you get up to?
It just seems like it's full of sports these last 2 weekends. I mean, the F1, watching DeChambeau, like his Happy Gilmore impersonations out there, and then hockey's back, like amazing. I was just surfing, and then on 5 o'clock, just going through, and there, that was phenomenal too. It's great. It's great to be a sports fan.
Cass, you get a lot of sports this weekend, or are you a family man? What were you doing?
A little bit. My wife was rolling her eyes at me yesterday. She was video messaging one of her friends, and I had the hockey game up on the laptop, and then the Packers game up on the TV, and I had the volume on for both. And she was just like, "Can you turn one of those off?" And I was like, "No." She's like, "How can you tell which is which?" I'm like, "I don't know, but I don't care. I will watch both of these." And then you know what, guys? I even watched. I watched your F1 highlights.
You did?
I did watch them. So I saw, the big spin out with the rain, and, then the banter between Hamilton and that Lando guy about what tires when. And that was kind of awkward, but it was still, interesting to listen to. So it was actually, you know what? I didn't watch the whole race or anything, but I was like, okay, like that was interesting. It was kind of cool.
You got to start somewhere, buddy. I think highlights will take it. We'll take it. Gager, that was a hell of a race, man. I loved it.
Just like from the embryo fan that we are, Dusty. And if you watch the series and then you see who the starting three were of that race and how those first couple turns were like, I was waking up people in the house. It was so exciting. And then just to see what happened. I mean, that was heart-wrenching for Lando, man. I thought for sure, because I got to turn off my phone because I am a little bit delayed, but no, what a race. Like with the rain, when the rains came, geez, that was sad. That was really sad.
Not to one up Cass, but I had the Oilers game streaming on my laptop, and I had the football game on my iPad, and I was doing the Russian Grand Prix on Formula 2020 because I really wanted to race before the actual race, so I knew what was up. But then after watching, I was like, I got to try out this track. So I had the desk set up with the steering wheel, and then both other things are there. So I was doing 3 things at once last night, and it was a good time. It was a good time. I absolutely loved it. Okay, preseason action last night. Cass, let's start with you, buddy. What are your thoughts on? Like, it was so weird. It was shots were 49-15. Like, it was just dominance the entire time.
Yeah, and when we were talking, I was talking with Huge Wiener Gazzola on the post-game show, and man, like I was just saying, if this is indicative of the Oilers versus the Flames, because you had a lot of the bottom 6 in both groups playing, and they played a lot of minutes against each other. And if Edmonton can respond this way to what Calgary is going to try to do from a physicality standpoint, because that's what we saw. We saw Calgary trying to play like Sutter wants Calgary to play, which is, play physical. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to hit you. And the Oilers were just kind of like, okay, like you try and do that. We're just going to take the puck and skate and not be intimidated by what you're trying to do. And they absolutely controlled the play and dominated Calgary. I think they could be in some trouble here against some of the quicker teams. And I know Calgary's better when all of a sudden Gaudreau and Monahan and those guys are in the lineup. So I get that they have better players that are coming. But as far as a bottom 6 matchup goes, man, Edmonton just they controlled this one quite handily.
Gager, did you have a chance to check it out at all?
I watched a bit of it. It's kind of, to me, I was looking at more of from a Calgary standpoint. They're maybe trying to impress the coach too much with the physical play. Like it was just, it was kind of a weird game. And I was hoping to see a little bit more action from the Oiler goalies to see how they performed. But yeah, I mean, it's a great way to start. A bunch of guys, making it tougher on the coaching staff to make decisions, and probably a lot of those guys deserve to play in another game, right? And in preseason, as a bubble guy, you're always like, okay, I got to get one more preseason game, and you just keep building on it from there. So good on the Oilers. Flames didn't look good, but like Cass said, there's not a lot of their big guys in the lineup that can make a pretty big difference.
You know what? With the goaltenders, like, it was an incomplete grade. Like, you couldn't really get a read on anything they did. How frustrating is it, do you think, for Skinner and Konovalov to be like, hey, here's a half game, go do nothing? Like, it must have been tough when you want to prove yourself, and you watch and go, oh, you had to face 8 shots and none of them were really dangerous. Like, that's got to drive them nuts.
Well,
maybe a little bit.
Yeah. They deserve another game, though. Like, that's one way to do it. Just not be busy.
Got a shutout. Like,
yeah,
and as Gage just said, that means you're probably going to get another look at least here. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with it.
I'd be a little pissed off if I was Konovalov. Like, you finally get a chance to prove yourself. What do you get? 5 shots? I think he had 6 shots in that game. Mind you, he stopped all of them, and one of them was a dangerous play, kind of a cross that was directed on net, and he moves pretty well in the net. I don't mind the way that he looks. All right, so what we're going to do in today's episode, and once again, thank you very much for subscribing to the podcast. We appreciate that. We're going to bring back, we got to talk about it. We're going to hit on 3 things we got to talk about with the Oilers, and then 3 things we got to talk about the rest of the league as well. So let's alternate. Let's go Oilers, other. So let's Gage, let's start with you, buddy. What do we got to talk about on the Oilers front?
Well, I mean, I think you talked about it a lot today, Dusty, but Evan Bouchard, the way he looked in that game, he looked like an NHL guy playing in an exhibition game to me. His decision-making, he knows what he's doing before he gets the puck, and he just great passes, looked really, really good. I hope this is just a sign of his maturation process, and maybe he can slide right in there and play at a regular level. That I know it's only exhibition, so you can't get too horny about it, but he did look really, really good last night in the little limited I saw of him.
Kaz, how much you read into what Bouchard did last night?
I think he looked really good. Really good. A couple plays of note. There's one time maybe 3 plays of note. One I'll do when he just pulled it along the blue line. So gets motion along the blue line, drags it, pulls the puck just an extra half foot right before he shoots it to find a lane, and the puck gets through. So a really nice play from the point. Number 2, that kind of tic-tac-toe passing play where he net drives, reads the play,
nice.
goes to the net with this. It was really nice. Like,
and then fed it back up front, right? That was to Perlini. Yeah.
Really, really nice play on that one. And then one play in the defensive zone when he was under pressure, just to release, basically fake like he's going one way to cut back the other way and completely relieve the pressure, and just looked really comfortable doing it. So if he can carry some of this momentum or just even the decision-making processes that he showed in game 1, I mean, it's a really good sign. Like, I think didn't he get voted the smartest player in 2 years in a row? Did he not?
Mm-hmm.
In the queue?
By the coaches.
By the coaches, which is very, very indicative of me of what the potential of a player can be, because some people would say they want speed first and foremost. Some people would say they just want talent first and foremost. Some people would say they want work ethic first and foremost. I want someone that can think first and foremost for my team, because you can teach some of the other stuff, and if you have someone that can think, you can work with them on their speed, you can work with them on their skill, you can work ethic maybe a little bit tougher to work with guys on, but you can push players. But you really can't teach just that natural inbred hockey IQ ability. Like that to me is unteachable in a lot of ways. But he seems to have it and seems to show it. And I think I saw a little bit more of it last night, which is a really, really good sign for Evan Bouchard and for the Oilers.
Gidget, do you want to jump in there again? You look like you're gonna.
No, he's
okay.
no.
Yeah.
I was just. He just looked. I even thought that he looked better on his skates. I don't know. Maybe, when we saw him, I think just not being in games, there's that. He looked a little hesitant, but he didn't. His decision making, like you said, Cass, it's so quick, and he knows he's going. He's like a chess player. He's like two moves ahead. It seems like, which is really good for a D-man to be like.
What do you guys think is his ceiling this year? Like, and I think I'm gonna keep it pretty reasonable here. But let me throw. I'm not talking points, but does he get, like, let's assume Duncan Keith is locked in left side middle pair. Is it reasonable to think that Bouchard could be with him by the middle of the season? Or is that just a CC Keith thing and Cuckoo and Bouchard just stay together all year? Or is there room for him to elevate so that by March, when they're getting ready to push down the stretch, Bouchard's become a top 4 defenseman for you?
I think it'll be situational. And I think that it's okay to say that the ceiling's going to be that. Like, he'll be, I would assume, most likely a guy, depending on what happens, like power play, penalty kill, like when players go out there, he's going to be the next guy up that's going to step in. And, if someone gets injured, same thing, next guy up that's going to get a lion's share of those minutes. I don't think, unless he, and it's possible that he does, I guess, take a really, really big step forward, that he cements himself on that second pairing. Like, I still think he'll end up being on the third pairing. However, I think he'll be a consistent third pairing and a guy that Tippett trusts to put out there if he needs him, or let's say someone had a long shift, needs a couple extra seconds to get a breather. He's going to be the guy that goes out.
It would be great if they become a solid third pairing, say him and Cuckoo together, and then you have the CC Keith and Barry and Nurse. Like, if we look back into the playoffs, just having 4 D-men, they were exhausted when you get into those overtime situations and things like that. And you look at the Jets that were able to play more players. I think if that can be a solid, reliable pairing, man, that's a nice little thing in the holster that Tippett can have, and just have a little bit more faith on his back end. I hope it just stays like that, really. But like Cass said, it is situational too. With his type of offensive ceiling, you might see him up playing top line for a bit if they're behind or something like that, right? To give teams another look. Who knows?
Anyway, positive start for Bouchard, no doubt about it, here at preseason, but he looked like the best player on the ice last night, which is ideal, I think, if you're the Oilers right now. All right, let's jump around here a little bit. Cass, non-Oilers, what do we got to talk about? Where do you want to go?
Non-Oilers, I wanted to talk about how awesome those Seattle Kraken jerseys are. Like, I didn't want to watch until the Oilers played them. I'm like, I'm not going to watch. I don't want to see them. I want to see them when they play the Oilers, and I want to watch them the whole game. But then I just watched the highlights because I couldn't help myself. And man, those jerseys look sharp. They look sharp. And you know what? One of my favorite things about them was, like, I love that little band of red, because when you're zoomed out, like, you don't really notice it. You can't really see it when the camera's far away, but the second it starts getting in closer, on any of the highlights, then you see it. Like, it's just a very, very subtle touch on the jerseys, and I loved it. I thought they were great. If I was a kid, I would absolutely be asking for one of those jerseys to wear. Like, that to me is right up there with when we had the purple and green Mighty Ducks first come out. Like, and I had my like poofy Mighty Ducks jacket, like, which was my favorite winter jacket until it got stolen by some creep. When we went to play shinny. It was the worst thing in the world. I was so heartbroken. Stole my shoes, and he stole my Mighty Ducks coat. It was a horrible day. But I would absolutely be asking for a Kraken jersey or sweatshirt or hat or something, because those are sweet. I think they're so cool.
Yeah, and probably on TV it doesn't do them justice either. If you that first game, I think it's here tomorrow, right? It would be Maybe I'll sneak in and have a look at these jerseys under the big lights, because when they're on the ice and the contrast and stuff, they do look amazing. I wish the Oilers aren't going to wear their retro or reverse retro ones anymore, are they?
Don't believe so.
Yeah, probably not.
Don't believe so.
Which is dumb.
Maybe
Those
limited run. Maybe
jerseys.
I don't know.
Those are my favorites right now.
Kraken swag is sweet, though. You're right. And the moment they put it out, that color scheme and just everything you can do with the brand, with the Kraken, and I mean, I can't wait to see, what they got going on from a presentation perspective for regular season. It should be really well done. And on top of that, hearing somebody steal something from you as a child brings me back to my own childhood, Cass, because I had a guy come over. He was a grade ahead of me in school, and he came over on the weekend. We played hockey together. And he came over and we were looking at my hockey cards. And to this day, I still swear to God that he stole my Brett Hull rookie card. When I was like 8 years old, I was livid. And I never confirmed it, but I think he stuck it up his pant leg. And then, because he's wearing sweats, like stuck it up inside his pant leg and then stole it. And I never hung out with him again. Like I was just like, that bugger stole my Brett Hull rookie card. So
I'm sorry,
if he's
Dusty,
listening today,
horrible.
You owe me a card that is now worth only about $60 to $70. But at the time, I was pretty fired up about my Brett Hull rookie card. God, Ben was his name. Ben Lang. God.
Oh, Ben Lang. Let's find
jerk,
this
Ben.
guy. Let's track him down.
We should track him down. Have an honest discussion.
Yeah, just like in with the Danbury Trashers. I got his address, Dusty. Yeah. I got Ben Lang's address. What do you want us to do?
What do you want us to do, Dusty? What do you want us to do?
I want my Brett Hull rookie card back. But yeah, those do look sweet. All right, I'm going to go. Let's go Oilers. I'm going to go the MPH line, as I've dubbed it, as in miles per hour. McDavid, Puljujarvi, and Hyman. We know whoever is going to be with McDavid. I mean, McDavid's line, no matter who's on it, is going to be dangerous because of 97. But do you guys think that trio, as a group, has the ability to be like a top 3 or 4 line in the entire league? And the conversation not just to be, well, it's McDavid, whoever's playing with McDavid is going to be good. Like, do you think Hyman and Puljujarvi and McDavid could click to the point where they're the most dangerous line in the league?
Well, let me just say one word. McDavid.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but he's always that case. But like,
Dusty,
Boston's got the lines and Tampa has the lines. It's always just been McDavid
on the line. If you have McDavid on the line, like, you automatically are one of the most dangerous lines in the league, regardless of who's playing with him. He is that good. But I know what you're trying to say, and yes, they certainly could be, because you have, I think, what could potentially be a very extra lethal combination that makes McDavid just accentuates what he's able to do, and he's not dragging people along in that instance. Like, he's able to bring out the best in them, and they're hopefully able to bring out the best in him. So yes, the potential is there, absolutely. But I mean, really, it's like you put anybody on that line, just about, except maybe like me in my heyday, and then I'd probably kill him offensively, but everybody else is.
The question should probably be then, because it is McDavid and he's better than everybody. Gager, does McDavid, Puljujarvi, Hyman have potential to be the best line in the National Hockey League? Maybe that's the more fair question, because Cass is right. McDavid on his own is a top 5 line, but could they be the best line in the National Hockey League?
I'm trying to think of who I would want more, and probably the only line I can really think of is the in Boston with the Pasta line and Bergeron and
Marchand. They're good.
Marchand. But that's only because they've been together and they're a known commodity, I think. Like, as we see, like, it just because you put guys together doesn't mean they're going to be a great line. I think if they can be a really, really good line, I think that's a win. They don't have to be the best, but if they can draw the other team's 1 and 2 defensemen away, and then you come back with Draisaitl's line, and Draisaitl's all of a sudden playing against 3 and 4 on other teams. It creates so many issues with trying to defend against those guys. I think if they can establish 2 solid lines like that, and then, depending on the situation, if you put the big 2 together again, if they're down or whatever, you can. But just to have that 1-2 punch up front, that's really hard to defend against. The only team I can see I'm going to say the Canadian division, because I've been looking at those, is the Winnipeg Jets on their back end. That's the only team that I think that can really stack up against the Oilers' two lines if they're both going. But man, yeah, they're going to feast, I think, if that chemistry works out with that line.
Let me throw a curveball at you here. Does Connor McDavid have more points on his own than Hyman and JP combined as his two wingers?
Now, are we talking 5-on-5 points or just overall points?
Good question. Yeah, good point, because power play is going to be big.
Because he's going to get a lot of points in the power play.
I would think overall, 5-on-5, it'd be tough to do, I think. But power play, you think he gets it? Like I got him for like 140 points. So are there other two guys?
He's going to double those guys. Yeah, at least one of them. For sure.
Yeah, I think so.
But you have to include the power play points, because if you don't, it's going to be a lot closer, because he's going to get
different.
He's going to get 75 or 80 points in the power play at least.
Well, who's changing? Is it Hyman and Jesse changing on the power play? That's the only one that's changing.
Today at practice, it was Hyman was with the top unit net front. Puljujarvi was with the second unit net front. So I would assume he'd be the second guy that would rotate in. So they'll both get a crack at it for sure. So, all right, Gager, non-hockey, what do we got to talk about? Or non-Oilers, what do we got to talk about?
Well, the Canucks still haven't signed their two big guys here. And I don't understand how that Pettersson and Hughes haven't, I believe their cap room is they have enough cap room to sign these guys. Like, I don't know what they want or what they're asking for, but gosh, when you look at their lineup, like, you're missing your number one center. They're really thin after that. And then not having Hughes back there. I know that Hughes isn't a big defender yet, but man, is he dynamic offensively for a team that looks like they're probably going to struggle scoring goals. So I don't know what's going on in Vancouver, but if they start the season without these two guys, they'll be out of a playoff race by 5-10 games in, because it'll be so hard to catch any other team. So I don't know what's going on in Vancouver. I'd love to see these guys sign just because they're so dynamic and fun to watch. But man, if they start the season without those two guys, the season's done.
They got 13 million cap space.
Yeah.
Is that enough to get those two guys done right now? Because if Pettersson, I think I saw it today, Chris Johnston said Pettersson's willing to take in that 8 to 8.5 range for 5 years. So if you do that, then you're only looking at 4.5 or 5 for Quinn Hughes, and you might not be able to get that done. So, Cass, with that being said, I don't know how they're going to try to weasel those two guys in there.
I don't know. Do you have to do it in conjunction with making another move or trading somebody here? Just to me, I don't know how you get it done with the cap space now. It's a tricky one. Especially at 5 years. If you sign even a longer deal, if you sign Pettersson an 8-year deal, well, now you have a little bit more flexibility, because you can start to run the numbers up. And yes, you still have an average, but hopefully you can kind of you try to bring that number down slightly, maybe. I don't know, but geez, it's a tough spot for the Vancouver Canucks to be in, and it's totally self-made. They did this themselves. They have no one else to be upset about, rather than it's their own dang fault here. I don't know how they get it done without making a move, Dusty.
Do you agree with Gager that if they don't get it done, their season's done?
Oh, they're done.
Oh
yeah.
How long can you wait? Could you go 3 weeks into the season, or is that too late?
No, till the end of camp. No. If you think of even if you sign them, right at the end of camp, exhibition games are over. They're going to be behind in terms of what they haven't been skating at camp. Yes, they've probably been skating at their own and they're in okay shape. But it's not going to be the same. If you look historically at players that have either held out or not been on the roster right away, it's tougher to get going. And even if it takes them 2 or 3 weeks to get into the groove of things, you lose a whole bunch of those games in the division you're in, you're toast. So if they don't get this done in the next week and a half, I don't see how they're going to recover for the season.
I don't know
Like,
how you put yourself in
they're-
this spot with those two guys. Just doesn't make any sense.
That's just such a big hole. Like, you're coming back, Horvat, Sutter, and Dickinson as your centers. Like, you need. I mean, I like Horvat as a center. Sutter's good too, but man, that's such a huge hole. Like,
If these two guys aren't signed for the beginning of camp, Benning should be fired on the spot. Like, how can you, if you look at the other things that he's done with that lineup and you leave yourself in this type of spot with these two guys, horrendous management. Horrendous. Like, it's awful. Absolutely awful. It's crazy. But a good discussion for sure. All right, Cass, Oilers, what do we got to talk about?
I just wanted to talk about that bottom six, and in particular, just from the exhibition game yesterday, how good those two lines looked, and just, I guess, talk about what kind of a competition we're going to see. Because if the players all go out and play like that, like, how do you make a decision as a management group and as a coaching staff of who you're going to keep? Because you had a lot of guys put in some really good efforts. Like, Ryan obviously gets a couple points. He looks really good. Turris, I thought, looked fairly good in that position. That whole line looked good. Perlini was moving very well. Like, you had a lot of guys that are fighting for the same spot or spots, all played very well. And if that just continues, I think it's going to put management in a tough position. And, for me, in instances like that, I typically go to who already has the contract, because that's just easier for the team to manage. You're not burning cap space. Like, and even for Ryan, I was like, well, if it's close between Turris and him, like, Turris is on a one-way deal and Ryan's got, I believe, has two-way in his contract, correct? So it's just like you lean a little bit more towards guys based on the contract, but I think it's going to be an absolute battle the entire time. Like, expect the guys that are fighting for position to play probably all 8 of these exhibition games. Like, they're going to play in those games, and they're going to play a lot in those games, because it's going to be a battle, and what I'm looking forward to. McLeod's in on that too. Like, he has one chance, I think, in the game in Calgary, but was maybe the least noticeable guy out of that. The guys contending for position out of that group, but he still had a good game. So it was just an interesting storyline to me for the Oilers moving through this camp, is what does happen with that bottom six, who starts to pull ahead a little bit in terms of most likely to get that position, and how does management and coaching handle it?
it's funny how we're talking about how deep the bottom six is with the Oilers. Wasn't that?
It's true, though. You're right. Yes,
it's a nice thing to have. I mean, like I said, I always like watching the Hurricanes play, because it seems like, I mean, obviously there's a little bit of difference with the Aho and stuff like that, but they kind of all play the same way. And just seeing the speed which those guys played with, like you said, Turris looked good. I like to see Derek Ryan do well. Like, for some reason, I'm pulling for that guy to have a good season, and Perlini with that breakaway that he scored, that was awesome. Like, pulling away from guys, man. It'll be a dogfight to see who makes the team on opening night for sure.
Well, what's crazy is that Cass just laid out all these guys who played last night. Fogel's going to be in the bottom six. Yeah. He didn't play. Kassian's going to be in the bottom six. He didn't play. So those are your two biggest pieces in the bottom six, and they weren't even out there. So you've got 4 jobs that are up for grabs, and Ryan and McLeod are probably going to get the 2 in the middle, which means you got 2 jobs up for grabs, depending on what happens with Archibald. You got 2 jobs up for grabs, at least in a starting 12, and then maybe a 13th or a 14th forward, or however they're going to sort that out. But for the first time in a long time, you feel like there's going to be an NHL caliber player or 2 that aren't going to make this team, when usually it's the other way around, where you got 1 or 2 guys who you don't think should be in the NHL who have a spot on the team. And Cass, I know that doesn't seem like major, but it's pretty big for this organization and this team this year, isn't it?
Well, I think that's huge. It just speaks to some of the moves they've made to try and shore up that depth. And you get that? There's a little shore comment.
Shore joke.
I mean, Berlini as well, and like Skizins. Like, you have so many guys here that are NHL caliber players or have NHL experience, and it does just round out that depth, which is what you need as a team. Like, I understand you want to develop players and you want to give some young guys opportunities. But this team is in a win now mode, and in win now mode on win now teams, you have to have NHL guys in all positions of your team playing and battling and competing against one another, and I think they've stepped that up this year, and they've stepped up the competition by not just having a situation where the lineup is set and they're just giving the spots to guys. People have to earn it, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
We'll see how this battle plays out.
Good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, no, it's good. All right, let's go. I'll wrap up with we got to talk about the Montreal Canadiens. And I just had a bad feeling they're going from Stanley Cup final to missing the playoffs. Like, I really do. They're not overly healthy.
Thinking that?
Well, no, but I mean, we talked about it in the offseason, and I was a little nervous about it then. But I think you guys were trying to remain maybe a little bit positive. To me, I'm not a miracle, but I think it would be a big surprise if the Montreal Canadiens make the postseason this year. And I like Suzuki. I like Caulfield. I think they've got some good young pieces. But when you go back into the division that they're going to be in again with Boston and Florida and Tampa and Toronto, and I don't think we have to worry about Ottawa, Detroit, or Buffalo when it comes to Montreal. They're probably going to be all alone by themselves and fifth in that division. But they just went on this miraculous run. Some of these young guys got this great experience. Some guys that you didn't expect to play as well as they had in the past managed to do that here. So, Cass, does this go from, not that they almost won it because they ran into a juggernaut, but does this go from, wow, Habs are taking a step to, wow, Habs are still the Habs?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You lost too much. You lost too much. You had too many big injuries. The Weber one's a big one. Price, looks like he'll be back maybe to start the season, but his health is a big question mark. You do have some really good young pieces that now have some experience, which is great. But can they carry you through a whole season? I don't know. It's going to be tough coming out of that division. Like, even if they make it or somehow squeeze into a wild card here, they're in one, I think. And it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot. I don't know. I want to remain hopeful for you, Dusty, but I'm not at this point.
Don't worry, I'm not either. It's okay. Gager, what do you think? What does it take for them to somehow weasel their way in?
They got to make sure that those water wings don't run out of air and just try to keep their head above water till, and do something. Maybe something comes together in February, March there and make a final push. But yeah, they're going to be gasping for air, I think, especially in that division for most of the year. A lot, and with Carey Price's health, you can't play him 60 games. His hips will fall off. So man, it's that's going to be real tough, and without Weber, like Cass said, that makes it even tougher. But the one thing, I did watch a lot of that game on Saturday, and I know it was exhibition, but they did look quick. They didn't score, but they did look really quick. Nylander had a pretty good game, but we'll see, I guess. It's so hard to judge exhibition. So
yeah, well, as you said, and it's the title for the episode 171, you can't get all horny for this, which is pretty much what we're thinking about when it comes to the exhibition. It's essentially what Dave Tippett was saying when he said, relax, it's a preseason game. He was essentially telling everybody, you can't get all horny for this because it's the first game of the preseason. So yeah, we get the Oilers against the Kraken on Tuesday here in Edmonton. Looking forward to, you're right, just to get a sneak peek at the jerseys would be pretty nice to do. Plus they got the old oil derrick back at the arena now too, so you can go and get a picture in the oil derrick. Gage, you must have came out flying under that oil derrick, eh?
Did we? No, I didn't.
Second stint? Was it not there in the second stint?
Oh, yeah, I was there my second stint. Yeah. I was more scared about knocking that thing over, to tell you the truth, Dusty. I kind of eased my way out there.
Oh, is that Gager again? God.
Oh, just to the oil derrick. To the booze. Boo!
I love that thing, man. I love that thing. That was awesome.
It was a pretty cool piece. I remember they brought out the Waterdale Bridge at the new one, and not as cool. Let's just say
not as cool.
Yeah, cool looking bridge in downtown, but not a mini version on the ice.
Not for a hockey. Yeah, not for a hockey presentation. Like
not the case.
No. Yeah, it's a bridge. Like,
here they come. through the bridge.
Yeah.
It's just not the same
so
thing.
fired
man.
up.
Not the
So
same.
Not the
fired
same
up.
thing.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for a Monday episode. We'll be back on Thursday with another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie as we continue to get you set for the upcoming regular season with some preseason hockey. Two Guys and a Goalie is brought to you by the presenting sponsor, CoolBet. Stay cool, bet responsibly. They've got hundreds of preseason player props now posted, so you can go and check that out at coolbet.com. We'll dive into that a little bit on Thursday with Chris Abbott when he pops by for a visit on our next episode. Boys, have a good week. Catch up in a few days. For Walking Gage, Matt Kassian, I'm Dustin Nielson. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing to the podcast. We'll talk to you next time.